Oblivion, the Black Hole, is one of the headlining attractions at Gardaland, an amusement park in northern Italy. It stands 139 feet tall, reaches speeds of up to 62 miles per hour, and features 2 inversions. The ride is a B&M dive coaster. It's located near the back of the park, next to the park's drop tower and their floating island. And overall, it's a really fun ride. It's kind of typical for a dive coaster, but you can't really go wrong with this type of model. It's a really fun experience. The ride itself is really imposing. You can kind of see it from anywhere in the park. Like I mentioned, it's sort of near the back of the park. The line was usually around 20 minutes. They ran 2 trains. There's 18 riders per train, 3 rows with 6 riders per row. I never got the front due to assigned seating, but I got the back and the middle. Usually front is the way to go on these dive coasters, but unfortunately I wasn't able to ride there. Talking a little bit about the queue, I'd heard great things about the indoor queue for this ride, but apparently since COVID it's been closed, and it was closed when I visited, so the line was basically just going up a few flights of stairs. I had a nice view of the coaster, but overall it was kind of meh. I could definitely tell that a lot more attention would have been poured into that indoor area, and I'm kind of sad that I didn't get to experience that part. So jumping into the layout, you head up the lift hill. It's got a nice view of the lake, the surrounding area, and the park. But if you want views, you go to the floating island right next door. There's really never a line, and that's a great ride if you want to look around the area. The drop gives some strong and sustained floater airtime with a hint of ejector in the back row. It's kind of typical for a dive coaster, but it's a great drop. There's lots of airtime. It's got the normal B&M over-the-shoulder restraints, so they don't really tighten on you. You get some good airtime. You raise up in your seat. In the back row, there is a hint of ejector airtime. Of course, the drop is going to be better in the back, but you're not hung over on that holding brake as much. After the drop, you head into a tunnel. There's no real effects here in the tunnel, but it's kind of cool how it goes from sunny to when you're in the tunnel, it's dark, and then back into the sun again. After the tunnel, you head up into an Immelman. It's typical for a B&M dive right after the drop. Basically, every single one has an Immelman. It's kind of typical, but it's still a fun element nonetheless. After the Immelman is an element I was really looking forward to. It's this straight airtime hill. I thought it would give a lot of maybe even potentially ejector airtime, but it was good floater. Kind of wished for a little bit more, but it's still a good element. Following that is a helix banking to the left. It's actually pretty intense. I wasn't really expecting much from this. Kind of expected it to be a forceless turn, but it actually pulled some decent positives. And after that is a floaty 0G roll that's got some nice hang time into the brake run. Overall, the layout's pretty simple. I'll be drawing some comparisons here to SheiKra at Busch Gardens Tampa and Valkyria at Liseberg. Those are the other 2 dive coasters that I've ridden. Valkyria focuses more on the layout. It's got a really diverse variety of elements with some airtime, some positives, some inversions, and SheiKra focuses more on those 2 massive drops that are both vertical. Oblivion kind of does a mix of the 2, but it doesn't do either particularly well. The layout isn't all that great, and there's only 1 drop, and although it is really fun, I'd say this is, out of the 3 dives that I've ridden, like I mentioned the other 2, it's probably the weakest. Still really can't go wrong with it. It's got some solid elements, and overall I really like this ride. I feel like it's the best coaster in the park, but it doesn't really feel like a standout attraction. It's really, at the end of the day, it's just a dive coaster. It's just one of those coasters you walk away from and you say, hey, I had fun on that. I realize this is kind of a shorter review, but it's a shorter review for a shorter ride, so I'm going to wrap this up and give Oblivion the Black Hole an 8 out of 10. Like I mentioned, it's my favorite ride of the park, just edging out Raptor, and a review for that will come out soon, maybe. Probably in the next week. But yeah, I don't really have anything else to say. It's kind of a typical dive coaster. I really enjoyed it. Nice airtime, a few good elements. That last inversion's really good, and yeah, I just thoroughly enjoyed the ride.